when the news, particularly, well, in print journalism, you'll see this, but also on television news, when they show a politician, they'll put a D by their name and maybe the state, or an R by the name and the state. And I wanted to ask you about the practice of that, because it actually really bothers me. And it bothers me because it kind of is positioning me to, what's the word? It's priming me for my response. So if that person's on my team, I'm going to agree with them. If that person is not on my team, I'm going to find flaws in what they have to say. And my question is, do you think we should get rid of that practice? Because to me, if I want to just consume the information and not have an assumption, not have a bias, not confirm my certainties, I just want to listen to who they are, or what they have to say, and not who they are. Does that make sense to you? And what do you think about that practice?
I think that's a really interesting idea. I've never thought of that before. It's certainly a holdover from an earlier era, right? When you could, back in the day, right? There were liberal Republicans, moderate Republicans, conservative Republicans. There were conservative Democrats, moderate Democrats, liberal Democrats. Both parties overlapped and had a lot of commonality at a certain point and then separated as they followed out the wings. It's a relatively modern invention where the two parties are so completely different and isolated from one another. And you're right that in this day and age, party affiliation is like knowing, it's like a uniform in sports. If you're watching the Vikings play the Lions, right? And you know which helmet is which, and you know which side you're rooting for. And that's all part of this conversion of politics into a team sport, one side versus the other. And I know which side I'm on. So, if I'm a Vikings fan, there's nothing the Lions can do that I'm going to approve of here in Philly, right? We're Eagles fans. And there's nothing the Cowboys can do that we're going to say, hey, that was a good play. They did good, right? Because we know who we're rooting for. And that's a fine attitude for sports. It's a pretty unhealthy attitude for democracy.
I was watching the news, and I think it was MSNBC or CNN. And there was a news story about a senator from New Jersey, Bob Menendez. And they were talking about him being indicted or being charged for crimes. And they didn't have a letter by his name. And I thought, well, he's a Democrat. Just based on, because I'd never seen that practice not being done for a politician. And I thought to myself, well, based on the channel, the network, this person has to be a Democrat. And it really frustrated me because almost always there's a default to have a letter by the politician's name, and then they removed it there. And I thought, oh, come on, this is not journalism. This is just, they have to report something, and so they're going to do it, but do it in the least damaging way for their party.
This is where the political system itself has taken on great dysfunction, where it is a team sport. And if you're a Republican, your job is to advance the interests of the Republican Party. If you're a Democrat, your job is to advance the interest of the Democratic Party. And what gets lost in that is the interest of the constituents, right? The interest of the citizens who have elected those people to go off and do that work. That's not always served by this one side versus the other. In fact, I think most people, when you really talk to people, most people are a mix. Most people are conservative in some ways, liberal in others, neutral, open-minded in yet other ways. And our political system does not reflect that anymore. And neither does our media system.